Daniel said, I'm a guest curator here at Hazelhurst for this exhibition. About 4 years ago in my sort of travels, I started noticing that quite a few number of artists seem to be using methods and materials that aren't normally associated with fine art, with things like, painting in oils and casting in bronze and what have you. And rather than sort of seeing it as a trend, I just sort of thought about it, on quite a number of levels. And one of them was that it's absolutely marvellous to me that people are actually capable of making this kind of work, because so much of it is so incredibly painstaking and so incredibly laborious in some ways, and that I don't have that in me at all. I'm a practicing artist also, and I mainly paint. But I suppose we're often attracted in life to things that we can't have or that we can't do. So there are all kinds of different influences that come in and different reasons that all of these artists are working in the way that they are. And I thought that rather than me coming up with some great divisive idea about the difference between craft and art, which I don't think is necessary at all, is that these are all actually works of art. Adrien Do's series of self-portraits are sort of a combination of matter-of-fact and the fantastic. What really appeals to me about these works is that she's quite straightforward about the kind of clothing that she's wearing, because that is actually what the kind of things that she would wear in real life. But clearly she's not going to be standing in a field and physically skipping with kangaroos. But to make this sort of really playful gestures and this almost sort of childlike fantasy world for herself, I think is really quite extraordinary. And there's an intensity in her practice also. These are very, very time-consuming pieces. Even though it's a combination of machine stitching to create the applique parts of the work, there's also a hell of a lot of very fine hand stitching also. I think compositionally she's very interesting artist as well. But just to be using these, usually really, really kitsch kind of linen tea towels to use as her canvas, I think is it's a very unique approach and something that should really be celebrated. A couple of years ago I was awarded the ANZ RIPE Award, and she's often makes works that are to do with the body and the interior and exterior aspects of the human body. And this work is called Auropod, and as you can see, it's made from recycled woolen jumpers that have been stuffed with wadding and all stitched together. But the idea is that you can get inside it, and while you're inside, it cocoons you from the rest of the environment, and so it blocks out a lot of the sound and gives a sensation of warmth and comfort, which is actually a bit of a recurring theme, funnily enough, for a lot of the works in this exhibition. This series of works is by Silke Ray, who's a Shire artist. What Silke has done is she's taken a fairly recent story. It's an autobiographical work in that she was recently doing online dating through RSVP. And it's called the Mayflower series, and Mayflower was her online name. And the top 4 works have basically the parameters of what she was looking for. It's not what she was looking for, it's what she wasn't looking for. So it's like players, posers and paranoid need not apply. Party boys, pricks and psychopaths need not apply. And she's created these wonderful little characters to illustrate those sorts of characteristics. And then in the second 2 rows, it's date number 1, date number 2, date number 3, and she's sort of once again playing with this idea of childhood notions, in that the Mr. Men books is where she got the idea from, saying things like Mayflower meets Mr. Hot and Cold, Mayflower meets Mr. Options Open. What actually happened was on date number 8, she meets Mr. Motown and falls in love, and they were actually recently married.